what did the constitution framers adopt from the other constitutions? What made the constitution framers to think and change them? Now, as Mr. Ambedkar expressed his view in the Constituent Assembly that if a student is kept forth on his hand the constitution book into his hands and asked him to read it, the first question what comes into his mind is what type of government is going to be there and what is the other form of the system or the rules and regulations which we are going to follow it. So, in answering this question in the Parliament or in the Constituent Assembly, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar gave the answer that Indians are fit, or for the Indian context it is fit to have a parliamentary form of government. For Indian context it is fit to have the parliamentary form of government. Then what about the powers of the president? In this explaining in this process of time, he compares India with US. See here, India, United States. Indians have adopted the parliamentary setup. In India we have president, in US also we have the president. In Indian president is just like a nominal one. He is not the real executive. He is like a Britain queen who is for the status of the nation, who is representing the entire nation and whose the government decisions will be entitled to public only with the authorization of the president. This is the view of our Ambedkar in putting president in Indian context. When we move on to the American president, where the Americans are also following the parliamentary setup, but it is not the prime ministerial setup, it is a presidential setup. It is direct representation. The president is elected directly by the people in America and president have the enormous powers. Here president is not the real executive, he is a nominal executive in the Indian context. But moving on to America, American president is the real executive. What is the meaning of the word real executive? Real executive means that the entire powers are entrusted in his hands. He can appoint anyone as his secretary. He will be having the various secretaries under him working directly discharging his responsibilities. He will have the powers to appoint anyone and to remove anyone at any point of time. He is having the entire powers to discharge all the duties under his name. And he is the supreme commander of the three armed forces. And he has that powers to declare war with any nation. These are the powers of the American president. His check was very limited by the Parliament or the Senate of America. But moving on to India, the Indian president is a nominal one. He also is the commander of all the three naval armed forces and he is having the special powers. He can appoint the prime minister, he can appoint all the other ministers. Without the approval of the president, no bill turns into an act and no person can be made as a minister or prime minister or any other positions without the knowledge of the president, but provided all these are under the control of the prime minister and president is bound by the advice of the prime minister. When it comes to America, American president is not bound by any advice given by any of his secretaries of the states and he is just can listen to the advice, but the final decision can be taken by the President of America. He is independent of the advice given by the secretaries of the states who are working under him. But when we move on to the Indian Prime Minister or Indian President is especially bound by the advice of the Prime Minister of India. Here the Indians elect Prime Minister directly. Even directly we don't elect the Prime Minister also. We elect the members of the Lok Sabha. The members of Lok Sabha of the winning party will elect their leader. Which party gets majority in the Lok Sabha will be called by the president. The president have only choice when he is having a slight majority of variation between the two major parties who got the maximum number of seats required to form a government. Then he can have a word saying that either this or that. Other than that, the president does not have any choice of calling except calling the winning party to come and form the government. In these all points or in the wake of this, why did Ambedkar prefer to go for presidential form not than the American type of presidential form? Because in India we have various categories of people and various we are not following the direct representation. If suppose president is given the entire powers as if that of the American president, so president may sometimes go in a arbitrary or like a monarchic setup, or like a fascist liberal, or like a Hitler, like Nazi, which turned into a Hitlership. So now he, in his point of view, to check every action of the leaders, to make them clear on their stand. Any bill should be discussed very clearly in the parliament of both the houses, should get the approval of both the houses, then should be move on to the final check of the president. So in these three stages of filtration, so if any negativities are found, they can be further be addressed and changed in this process of filtration. This was the ideology behind Ambedkar putting off the parliamentary setup of view and making the president a true representative of the nation and not the perfect real executive. He is going to represent the nation on the viewpoint that if the people of any problem is present, the constitutional head is going to be the president, but the real head is going to be the prime minister. The powers of the president in India are very contrary to the powers of the president of America. American president is the real executive. The unquestioned authority is vested with the president of America. When it comes to Indian prime president, we don't have any unquestioned authorities. Indian prime minister is having the equal powers with that of the American president, provided if he has confidence in the houses. Whereas the American president, once elected, cannot be removed for the next term of his elections of the office. But Indian prime minister, if he loses the confidence in the house, he can be removed or he has to resign immediately. In this point of time, he want to make that the leaders to be addressable to the nation. The leaders should be bound by the advice of the people. The people will have their say against the leaders. In this context or in this view, because we have faced the 200 years domination of the Britishers, where Indians were not at all considered at any point of time, the views of the Indians were not at all considered, and strictly Indians were considered as dogs. So he want to make Indians feel that they are the true representatives of the nation. They can choose their leaders, and from their leaders representatives they will choose their leaders. In this point of time, he made this kind of thing to set up of a true democratic spirit of the parliamentary system. And even he have a president as that of American president, but our president is having very limited powers when compared to the president of America.